Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Lead King podcast. Once again, my name is Russ Ward. I am the Lead King and I am your host. So glad to have you with us once again. And today I have a really cool guest, and he is going to speak with us on a topic that so many of you will not admit that you suck at, but I know you all do. I know I suck at it too, so I have to pay people like this guy to help me out. His name is Carlos Redlich, and he is a copywriting expert. Some of you may know him, some of you may not, but I promise you, if you stick through this to the end of this interview, you're going to learn a lot. He actually has some actionable steps you can take to improve your copywriting, and he's going to share those with you today. And so I'd just like to welcome Carlos to the Lead King podcast. Thanks for being with us, Carlos.
Hey, what's happening, man? Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. So, like a lot of people that get on the podcast, we literally just met the other day. You were saying, "Hey, I'd like to get on some podcasts." I checked you out. You looked legit, and here we are. And it's almost the end of the year, and I wanted to get at least one more good podcast in where we could share some things with some people that would be helpful to them, because I know everybody struggles with copywriting. But before we actually get into the nuts and bolts of copywriting, one of the things we do here on the Lead King podcast is we like to talk about how did you get into this, and what type of struggles did you come along the way? Because everybody that knows my story knows I struggled like crazy, almost killed myself. God, I hope you didn't almost kill yourself, Carlos. But can you tell us a little bit about how you came into this and your struggles?
Yeah, definitely. So I started as a martial artist, really. I mean, I was I'm 34, I'll be 35 in less than a month. And when I was about 20 years old, I was introduced by a martial art instructor to this thing called copywriting, but it was a little bit different than most people get introduced to it. So I was a very shy kid, but I was good at like punching and kicking and stuff. And so he was like, well, why don't you help me teach? And I was like, oh, that would be cool. I'll be an apprentice instructor. That's super cool. I'd love to do that. I've been doing it for 10 years up to that point. Now I can finally help teach. I'd love it. But the thing I didn't really understand is that there's a lot more to like teaching than actually being able to do the thing. So I was good at doing the thing, the punching and the kicks and all that stuff. But when it came to communicating it, trying to teach somebody and to just pass that knowledge over, it was terrible. I didn't know. I was having, sweat was dripping down my face. I was getting sweaty hands. I was just terrible. I couldn't teach. And we tried tons of things. I mean, we tried role playing, teaching, all of this stuff. And my martial art instructor at the time, Dwight Woods, it was his school. He told me he was big into Glazer Kennedy, like marketing. So he was very big into direct response marketing and copywriting and all that good stuff. That's how he built his school. And he told me, he's like, let's try this thing. It's called copywriting. The reason I want to show it to you is not because I think you're going to be writing ads or any of this stuff, because I didn't know what copywriting was. He said, but what it's going to show you, I think, is how to communicate with people. Because right now, he didn't say it so like raw, but he basically said, you're really terrible when it comes to speaking with people. So we got to fix that stuff, because we're role playing, we're doing all these different things, trying to make you better. Nothing is working. This copywriting thing, according to Dan Kennedy, is basically like salesmanship in print. So if you can write the stuff that you would be teaching or selling and whatever, then that might train you to be able to speak it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And so copywriting to me was more of like a self-development tool, more so than like, let me try and make some money. In fact, the type of copy I was writing was like lesson plans almost for the school. I'm like, here's what I'm going to teach, here's what I'm going to do. Because when you're teaching martial art, I didn't realize this until Dwight told me, he's like, you're basically selling from stage. And so when I'm in front of the class, my goal as an instructor is definitely to teach them stuff, but it's to make sure they are excited and want to come back to the next class. So they keep on paying their monthly bill and they keep on coming to the school. If they're not having fun, they're not learning, they're not seeing all that improvement, they're not going to want to keep coming. So copywriting to me, like I was saying, is more, when I first started, was so that I learned how to communicate with people. After kind of doing that for a few years, I'll speed it up a little bit. By the time I was about 25, that was like when I was 20 or 21. When I was 25 years old, my buddy Vit and I, he was another assistant instructor at the school, we decided we wanted to start our own school, but we wanted to be respectful to our instructor, and we didn't want to open up shop like right next door in the same city in Miami where we're from. Because we're in Miami, Florida. And so what we did is we moved like 300 miles north to this place called Jacksonville, Florida, mainly out of respect for our instructor, because we didn't want to, because a lot of people do that in the martial art world, and I'm sure in a bunch of other places, but I came from martial arts. So they'll go train with somebody, they'll do it for a few years and open up shop like 2 minutes down the road. And I'm like, how is that? That's so disrespectful, you know? So anyways, we didn't want to be that type of person because so many people had done that to him. We moved 300 miles north, opened up a school there. When I opened up a school there, I was broke. Vit was broke. We ended up borrowing like $15,000 from a friend of ours to try and open this martial arts school. But we were doing a lot of things incorrectly. We ended up signing up to get a brick and mortar location for our gym, and the rent was 10,000, just under 10 grand. It was like 9,800. It was like 10 grand a month, right? And we had $15,000 in our little bankroll. So it's not like we had a lot of money to waste. And so this was in Jacksonville, Florida. I had to get very creative. One of the first things we ended up doing was creating flyers. And this is where I was starting to tap into the copywriting stuff that Dwight showed me, because I was like, well, we got to get people to our martial arts school. How are we going to get them here? We don't have enough money to send direct mail. We didn't know anything about Facebook ads because I don't think Facebook ads was as popular back then. This was like almost a decade ago. This is a while ago, right? And so we ended up doing is I went to this thing called, I think it was like vistaprint.com. I got like 10,000 flyers for like $200 or something. I can't even remember. And I did a before and after picture. I'd had a cool headline, basic fundamentals of copywriting that I put on there. I had an offer, call us for a free week, you know, and all this cool stuff. But since we couldn't mail it out, what I ended up doing is I went to the beach, Jacksonville Beach, and I would just walk around, and I was basically selling people face to face to come to my school. But instead of, because what I did before is I would pass flyers out, or I would just drop them on a car and like cross my fingers and pray someone would call us, and no one ever did. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're dwindling. We went from like 10,000 flyers to like, you know, like a few thousand, like this is not working. So then I started approaching people face to face and just saying, hey, I'm not this on the beach in Jacksonville. I just, you know, so everyone's usually a bit more friendly because they're outside, more public, right? So anyways, I'm going out there, running up to groups of people, families, guys, girl, every single person. And I'm waving my hands in the air saying, hey, I'm not crazy, stop real quick. And that was like my pickup line basically. And they would all stop. And then I would say, hey, real quick, and I was very expressive. I noticed the more expressive and open I was, the less intimidating I was. And it like diffuse people from being too guarded. So I'd always put my hands up. Hey, wait real quick. I'm not crazy. Let me tell you something real quick. Maybe, okay, what's going on? Hey, I just opened up a martial arts school down the street, like 10 minutes away. And I'd like to offer you and everybody here a free week just to check us out. Would you guys be interested in that? And if they say yes, I'd say, awesome. Well, here's a flyer, but before I leave, let's pencil in that free week. Do you want to start it tomorrow or in a few days? Yeah, what's the best contact information so we can sign you up in our system? Because now I'm capturing name, email, and telephone number. I'm not just passing out a flyer relying on luck.
Right. So you were like a real life funnel. You were the front end of the funnel, and you were the capture form as well. You were doing it all in real life in what we do in marketing.
Right. And that's funny. I did do that. And then I ended up starting a little website that asked this info because I got sick and tired of writing it and not being able to read my writing after because I'm sweating from running around on the beach all day. The papers, there's a lot of logistical nightmare stuff going on. So anyways, we put up a simple little page. And whenever I would ask people for the contact info, I would just pull out my phone. I would say, okay, cool. Let me just put it into our little little box right here. Okay, good. You're set. You should get a confirmation email. And with a little calendar, just pick a time that works for you. And I started automating it a little bit more. Eventually, between myself and my friend Vit, who helped tremendously with networking in his, like he had a big following of people that love dogs. He was very into the community. Between both of us, we were able to build the school to just over 100 people in about a year, like 10 months, 11 months. And as cool of an accomplishment as that was to go from like 0 to 100 plus people, we were basically just breaking even because our rent was like 10 grand a month. And we were borrowing money, doing all this stuff. It wasn't working out. It's like we were putting students in the school, but we made such a big mistake by having such a big overhead that it was just, we needed 500 people in that school, not 100. And so anyways, that led to some drastic situations. My water was getting cut off. My lights were getting turned off. I had no money. I had no savings. I had no one just dropping cash. It was just getting very, very scary. And so one of the things that my girlfriend Tiffany and I ended up doing is because I was living with her and we were doing our own thing. Vit had his own apartment at this time with his wife. So I I don't know what Vit did. I don't know if he had, maybe he had, I assume we were both in pretty shitty situations. I assume he had to do some drastic things. I just never talked to him about this. But Tiffany and I, we were broke as hell and we had no money. And so we got very desperate where we couldn't take showers. We couldn't drink water. We had no, our water was cut off. Everything, our lights were cut off. So we went to our next door neighbor. I remember I hated this because I don't consider myself a criminal, but I was basically being a criminal because I'm stealing water from my neighbor's like hose. That was like outside of, the watering hose, like the sprinkler, whatever, the watering hose that's attached to a house. I was getting buckets of water, filling it up so we could flush our toilets, fucking take sponges and we can shower with the sponge, using it for drinking water. It was just ridiculous. It was a lot of stuff. But what that did is it pushed me to realize that I have to start making some adjustments. And it was around that time where I started posting in different Facebook groups, like little copywriting groups, because I didn't consider myself a copywriter at the time. I was a martial art guy using copywriting, trying to build his business, but I wasn't a copywriter. So I was working on a direct mail campaign that finally we had a little bit of money that we could just try and send to like everybody in our 3-mile radius, basically, of the school. And what we ended up doing is I wrote the little direct mail letter. I posted it in a Facebook group. I forget which one, but it was some copywriting group, and asked for feedback. I said, hey, let me know what you guys think of this. I need help because I'm going to mail this out for my school. And I had other people that were other like online gym owners or whatever it is contacting me and saying, hey, that was actually a pretty good sales page, man. Do you want to like write something for me and I'll pay you? I was like, sure, that would be pretty cool.
Right.
I didn't know what to charge for this. So I think my first sales page was probably like $100. And it was like, for people who don't know this, like you can charge a lot of money. Like right now we charge between like 10 grand and 25 grand, depending on the sales pages and funnels that we do. So I was charging $100. I didn't realize the value of this stuff. And also I wasn't tested and proven or any of that. So who knows if it was even good. But that started something. It got me thinking like, wow, I can write some stuff, send it to people on a Google document. I have no gym overhead. Like I have no cost. There's no gym that I'm paying for if I was just doing this business, right? Because I'm coming from a brick and mortar business where you have to pay rent. There's all these other things going on. But here I made $100. It took me not too long. I don't remember how long, probably like a week or something, but took me, not very long. I made $100. I had no costs. It was like a Google document and the guy just PayPal'd me. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. Maybe I can do this for other people. And so I started promoting in these little job boards myself. But the way I promoted myself was really answering questions and then rewriting people's ads. And I saw Ken from I don't even want to screw up his last name, but from AdZombies.com. I just talked to him. He lives in Arizona as well. He's a copywriter, built a multi-million-dollar business. We actually had a very similar experience on how we first started, where we weren't getting paid very much, but the way we got our clients is in these little groups in the beginning. We were just rewriting their ads. They would like, people would post like how I did with my sales page. I had asked for feedback. Well, instead of just giving them feedback, I would just rewrite it for them for free, just in there. I say, hey, try this out, see what happens. It wouldn't take me too much time. And it was kind of putting stuff out there for other people to see and say, wow, this guy's not too bad. Let's talk to him. And so I started developing a little bit of a reputation within a couple of Facebook groups, and that started getting people to reach out to me. And I just started upping my price until one day I met my good friend, who's now my good friend. We're actually partnering up on another like CBD business. We're about to do some really cool stuff together. But he was my first, what I call like real big client, because he was already a multimillionaire. He already had seen some of my copy. He paid me like $60 for emails, which I thought was like, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he paid me $60 for an email. This is amazing. I wrote like 6 of them and I'm loving life. Well, eventually he messaged me. He's like, dude, you're pretty good. I'd like it if you just started writing a bunch of copy for me and just wrote like all of my copy. Where are you at? And at the time I was in Jacksonville, but I was visiting family for Christmas was it Christmas or Halloween? It was towards the end of the year. It doesn't matter. Around the end of the year, I was visiting my family for one of these holidays in Miami. And he flew down from Scottsdale, Arizona and stayed at like, I forget, like the Fountain Blue or whatever, like one of these amazing hotels. He rented out like this amazing suite for himself. And it was like a 2-story suite on the ocean in Miami. This is probably like $1,000 a night minimum, like this place. And so, I met him at the hotel, because we were going to discuss doing some kind of retainer deal. And so I go to his hotel room, and again, I'm looking at this like I've never been in a hotel room this nice. It's like a 2-story apartment with a built-in jacuzzi. I mean, this guy had like the best spot that you could get. So I was already blown away. And we started talking about all the types of copy he wanted. And I quoted him for a package, because he was like, how much would this run me? I was like, I took a deep breath. I didn't know, but I had been preparing for like the last hour before I even got there. I'm going to charge this guy 10 grand. I just hope he has enough money, or not enough money, enough work that justifies it. So I said, it'll be $10,000 a month. And he was like, oh, it was like a sigh of relief. Like, oh, that's cheap. He's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it. When can you start, man? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this guy flew down from Scottsdale. He's got like the nicest place in Miami right now. I think I can get $10,000 for this project, and I hope it goes well. Well, he ended up hiring me for the 10 grand a month for like a year. And I ended up moving to Scottsdale, because he was like, listen, man, you can keep working from wherever you're working, in Jacksonville and stuff, but it'd be cool if you moved to Arizona, because then we can do more stuff faster. Maybe there's more opportunities. I mean, I'm already paying you regardless, but maybe there's more stuff we can do. So that was a very fast decision. My girlfriend Tiffany and I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona at the time, and just started working with him almost exclusively. And because of that relationship, he introduced me to a lot of really like heavy hitters, 8-figure, 9-figure guys that I don't think I would have been connected with otherwise. But it was because of they were coming into his office in Scottsdale, and he was like, hey, you got to meet Carlos. This guy is an awesome copywriter. And they were all shaking my hand. We were connecting on Facebook and all this cool stuff. And that was kind of the start. And I know it took a minute to answer this one question, but that was kind of the start of how my copywriting career started growing. And once I started doing that work with Anthony, and after that first year, it's like things just started taking off for me. I started launching my own offers, I started partnering up with different clients. I started a bunch of different things, and that was kind of like I always tell AP, Anthony Powell is his name. AP is what we just call him. But I always tell AP, I'm like, dude, you just plucked me out of poverty. I was on food stamps. I was basically homeless. I was stealing water. And in a day, I went from $0 a month basically to 10 grand a month. And I left the martial arts school that was charging me 10 grand a month just to have a gym basically because of rent. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is crazy. And so that was just a transformational moment, because I'm like, I'm one client away from transforming my life. I went from 0 to 6 figures in a year because of one dude. And that started growing because he was introducing me to all his network. And even to this day, so many years later, almost 10 years later, now he and I are doing joint ventures. He's made 8 figures plus in one of his offers he wants me to partner up with. And I'm like, you're really just one connection away. So I don't know. I don't know.
That's probably the longest answer I've ever had on the podcast, by the way, which is pretty cool. And usually I try to slow people down, but you're as a copywriter, you're actually a really good storyteller too, because I was like, I usually get bored in a long answer like that, but actually I was following your story, and I'm sure that's a big part of being a copywriter. You have to be a good storyteller too. A couple things that I picked up out of there though, that we're telling, and the people that listen to this podcast will resonate with, is you talked about how selling your audience at the martial arts school is like selling from a stage. And a lot of people are interested in that. I've seen Russell Brunson do it and talk about it many times in person and on videos. That's pretty amazing how you came up with your copywriting style, selling from a stage like that in front of your class. Like that's pretty amazing.
And I got to give credit to Dwight, because Dwight Woods is the one who taught me that, because he would go to a lot of seminars, these marketing seminars. He was a big Dan Kennedy. He was in like any high level, he was paying like 60 grand a year or more just to be in these mats. He was crushing it. He was a successful martial arts school owner, great person, doing all this good stuff. Anyways, he's the one who kind of introduced me to that concept, because he was showing me videos of Dan Kennedy. I'd never gone to a seminar, but I was understanding these concepts like selling from stage and this and that. And he's like, what you're doing when you're on the floor teaching people how to punch and kick is you're selling from stage, because if they're not sold on coming back, they're not going to come back and keep paying us, which means I can't have a business, which means you can't train martial art for free and keep working for me. So if you want to keep doing martial art with me, you have to be good at sales, so these people keep coming to our school. And that's when it clicked. I'm like, so I'm not, because I had this distaste with selling. I didn't want to be a used car sales guy. But when I made the switch of like, well, my livelihood kind of depends on this, and we're selling them something good, they're going to buy some shit one way or another. Let's bring them into our group. And when I started getting little wins and wins of like people just saying, wow, that was a great class. Oh, wow, I can't wait to come back tomorrow. It started reinforcing everything Dwight told me. And I've kind of been good at whenever I trust somebody's advice, like Anthony Powell, I trust his advice blindly. If he said jump off a building, I would just do it, assuming there's a net. I just trust him blindly.
Right.
So and it's not a good thing to do that with everybody, obviously, but if you pick the right people, Dwight was a guy I trusted blindly. AP is a guy I trust blindly. A couple other people now. I've always just been good at suspending my disbelief, I think, as Frank Kern says, and just doing the thing, because I figure they're further ahead than me, so they know things I don't know. So obviously it's uncomfortable for me to do these things because I'm not at the same level as them. So if I want to get to the same level, I'm probably going to have to do the uncomfortable things to get there. And then it won't be uncomfortable anymore because I'll have done it so many times. It'll just be my new state of normal.
Yeah, man, that's really good stuff. Awesome. I mean, these are all things that people really need to hear. A couple other things I noticed you talked about too was you started out in groups, and anybody who knows my story or take any of my classes, intro to how to get clients, I started out with nothing. I had $80, and the day I had $80, I had to decide whether I was going to get my daughter a birthday present and some gas for my car, or if I was going to do something else. And I swore to God, I'd never put myself in that situation again. And I didn't. And I took that $80 and made it into 10 grand by doing just what you did. And I went into groups. I kind of just posted in there. I did a lot of work for free, which led me to doing cheap jobs, which led me to raise my prices once I got a little bit of a reputation. And then what you have to do, which is so key, is you have to continue to build your brand and build your reputation. And you can never screw somebody. You can never screw up your good name, because in marketing, especially, if you get the scam label or the ripoff label or the guy who didn't come through label one time, that's it. You're out of business, and you have to protect that reputation almost with your life. And the other thing that I noticed that you said too, and obviously changed your life, you said he plucked you out of poverty, was connections.
Yeah.
In this business, man, people need what we do. Like, you're great at copywriting. I'm great at running ads and building funnels and things like that. There are people out there a lot of times that we forget how valuable we are. Like I can create automations and make funnels that would blow your mind. And to me, it's easy because I've been doing it for several years. But to a business owner who has $10 million, it would rather pay me 10 grand a month to do it. Sometimes I forget how worthy I am of that money. And you may have felt like that along the way. And some of the listeners might feel like that. So a lot of things that we do that we need to really consider, especially going into the new year, is we need to consider that we need to know our value. Right? Because to us, our value might not be as high as we think it is because we're just used to being so good at it. But our value is astronomically off the charts. Like you said, that guy changed your life. He paid you 10 grand a month right out of the gate. And that was it. You were off to the races, and life would never be the same again for you, right?
That's true. I don't think I ever went lower than that. Maybe 1 or 2 months back in the day. I don't think I ever went. Once I did the 10 grand a month, that was, and fortunately I had Anthony paying me 10 grand a month for like a year. So that also creates some stability in your life. Right. But I don't know, man. It's like, once you hit certain things you didn't think were very achievable. Like for me, 5 grand a month was like a game changer. 5 grand a month, 60 grand a year would have been like, I remember thinking, I'm like, oh my God, if I had 60 grand a year, I would just be like rich almost. And I went to 10 grand a month I doubled what I wanted, and just by asking for it. And once I did that, I don't want to get too woo woo, but it's like, once you do it once, it's hard. It's like that becomes and if it's a thing that you do once and it's kind of repeats itself. Like I made 10 grand a month. I didn't do it once, but I did it for 10 months or 11 months straight. And then I made a little bit more because of referrals. And here, that just changed my new normal. And once your normal changes, it's very difficult to go back, at least for me, for myself and some of my friends that I've noticed. Like when my friends make their first $1 million, they usually don't go under $1 million unless they have tax issues or there's some crazy shit happens. But just on like their performance, they usually don't go back. They usually stay there or go a little bit further.
It becomes the new standard. I had the same thing happen to me. The very first time I hit 10 grand. Now, yeah, I dipped under it a couple of times because I had some issues. I had some process issues. I had some chargebacks, but it becomes a lifestyle now where when I first got started, I was throwing so much shit against the wall, probably like you were, just to make ends meet. I was selling flooring. I was selling solar. I was doing everything I could think of. And I was actually kind of a scammer. I was looking for these sales jobs that would pay me a little salary so I could at least use that money to pay my bills until I figured out a sales job I could get, right? So my floor at the time was like $3,000 a month. If I could have $3,000, I could pay my bills and have a little money left over to have, some fun with my kids. Once I hit 10 grand, it changed my life. And what I try to download to these new marketers, because I talk to a lot of new marketers, they just can't even fathom that amount of money. And once you make it, you realize it's not even that much. And
Right.
but once you do it, it changes your life because the money gives you so many options. It opens doors that you never had open to you before. You can live in places that are like not dangerous. Like I used to live
It gives
in,
you breathing room too. It's like I remember like being worried about my rent. That was like $2,000 a month that I was splitting with me, Tiffany, and my buddy who rented a room out. We were just splitting this $2,000 a month place, and that was like so much money to me. I couldn't even imagine it. But now that I had this like little retainer deal, before I moved to Arizona, I was still living in Jacksonville and had the same rent. I was just like, I can now breathe. Every single day before, I felt like I was suffocating because I couldn't breathe. I didn't have enough money. It was like money was like oxygen. I just didn't have enough. I was gasping for air every single fucking day. And then when I had this one deal go through, it's like I could sleep in, maybe 10 minutes later, I could breathe. It didn't make me lazy, but it just gave me this relief that I can now focus on just doing good shit instead of trying to scramble. And it's like, once I had a little bit of money that I was like, okay, I can pay 2 or 3. If I never get paid again, I can at least, I have this shelter over my head for like 3 or 4 months. Like that was like a thing in my head that allowed me to have some security as an entrepreneur, and also gave me the ability to just start focusing on making more money, not in a desperate way, but focusing on higher level shit. So instead of trying to scramble for like $500 for a couple emails or a few $100 for some Facebook ad, I would hold out because I could now and say, I'm only going to take projects that are at least $1,000 or more, nothing less. And so I was turning away people, but I also had the benefit of having 10 grand from Anthony coming into my account every month. But because of that, it was just like, I didn't have to worry about breathing. I could just now focus on leveling up, getting better clients, and it was, you just need one good win sometimes, and you just have to stack upon it. What some people do is they get that one big win and they're like, fuck it, that was amazing. And then they just don't capitalize on it. But I moved to a completely new state that I didn't live in before to capitalize on this opportunity to work with this one person. Not everyone can do that. But as much as you can, you always want to just use every single win as just a stepping stone to the next higher one.
And guys, I didn't know Carlos's story before we came on here. I try not to prep too much for these shows because I like them to unfold organically like this. But I can tell you this, exactly what he's talking about is textbook how all the most successful marketers I've personally met have built it. It always starts out with the same process: working for free, trying your best, building a rep. And then the key, though, is what he's saying here is you set a new standard and then you build on the standard. You don't ever rest on your laurels like that. So I'm so glad you reinforced this today because so many people need to hear this message. Now to kind of get to the nuts and bolts of this, you're talking about a 5-step process because, some people out there could really use some help with this, some copywriting. I'd love to give them a takeaway from the podcast. 5 steps of writing a good Facebook ad. Do you want to go over it? Or do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah, I could go over it right now.
Yeah, why don't you go over those 5 steps and we'll help some people out today.
Sweet. So what I'll do is I'll list out all 5 steps first, and then I'll like freestyle an example.
Okay.
So you have an example, right? You guys who write your own ads following this will be better than my freestyle, but it will be an example. Okay. Right. So first step is you have a yes question or a yes phrase. The second step is you have a story that identifies the problem and relates with the reader. The third step is you have a big aha moment or the discovery of the solution. Step 4 is you have what's known as you suggest the possible solution. And I'll go over why that's so important in a little. And then step 5 is just the call to action. So I'm drinking coffee in this Yeti container. I don't know what this would be called. A container? What is it? What would you call this? A cup?
Coffee mug?
Coffee. We'll call it a coffee mug thing.
Right.
Okay. So in this little Yeti coffee mug, I'm gonna pitch this. We're just gonna freestyle it following those 5 steps. So let's assume that this Facebook ad is targeting coffee drinkers, and let's also make another just assumption, because this is a freestyle, that the problem that coffee drinkers have is that their coffee is either too hot and it burns their tongue, or it's too cold and it just It's too cold and you got to go reheat. It doesn't taste as good. So let's just assume that's a problem. So if that's the problem and I'm targeting those people, the way I would freestyle this is I would say, okay, yes question or yes phrase. So love coffee? Yes. That's a yes. If I'm targeting people that like coffee, that's a yes question where they're going to nod their head. Yes, I love coffee. So love coffee? Yes. Step 2 now is a story to identify the problem and relate with the reader. So I'll say something like, well, I love coffee too, but one of the things I can't stand is that whenever I try and drink my coffee after it's done, it burns my mouth and it burns my lips and it's just too hot. And by the time I get to my office, the coffee is too cold and I have to reheat it and it just doesn't taste the same. It never has that perfect middle ground. Cool. Step 3 now is I suggest it's the big aha moment or the discovery of the solution. So I would say, but then something crazy happened. I was walking around, Walmart the other day and I found this Yeti coffee container or mug, and it keeps your coffee warm for up to 6 hours straight. It's unbelievable. Okay. So now step 4 is I suggest the possible solution. Now, this has worked for me, and heck, it works for millions of people all around the world who purchase these Yeti cups, and it keeps their coffee warm all day long. Maybe it'll work for whoever's reading this ad. And then step 5, and what that does, it makes them say, oh man, I really hope it does work because it's worked for hundreds or millions of other people. So there's some social proof there.
Right.
And then step 5 is the call to action. But there's only one way to find out. So make sure you click the link now and check this Yeti coffee mug out for free. Just cover shipping and handling. Done. Right. So that's my 5-step pitch or 5-step formula, pitching a little coffee container thing. Now you can do that if you're selling roofing, you can do that selling copywriting or marketing services. It doesn't matter. As long as you follow those 5 steps, it's a natural path of persuasion that just takes the reader down and it makes them follow along a bit easier. Sometimes whenever we start writing our ads, if we don't have a formula, our minds get a little scattered and you may have some good copy in there, but it's not structured in a way that's going to be like read and absorbed and consumed. And so you want to make sure that it's actually, like my buddy Onyx Singal talks about, copy needs to be consumed, not eaten, but read, consumed. So if it's not consumed, it's not good. So sometimes people have all the greatest copy of the world, but it's not structured in a way that's consumable. And so those 5 steps allow you to persuade somebody in a way that's not so gimmicky. You're not going to turn them off.
Wow, man, that's solid stuff. I really appreciate you sharing that with the audience. That's like a mini course right there. That's a lead magnet PDF file that you can.
Yeah, 100%, dude, 100%.
Yeah. So awesome. The other thing I did want to talk to you about too was I did take a peek at your funnel before we jumped on the call, and I read some really nice testimonials. By the way, his website is trythisbiz, trythisbiz.com. And you can go there and you can look at what Carlos is doing. He has a really cool coaching program to teach you how to be a copywriter like he is and how to make money. But what I noticed was there was a few testimonials on there where people started talking about how they just followed what you told them and they started making money right away. Can you tell us about some of the stories that people have where they go from nothing to something?
Yeah, I'll actually give you one of our most recent success stories. Ryan Guthrie, I think that's how you pronounce your name, Ryan. I'm sorry if it's either Guthrie or Guthrie. Anyways, so Ryan, he came to us. He hadn't made any money online before. I ended up interviewing him because it was a great success story of someone who just kind of like followed what we said to do and then was consistent with it and did it. Because before I go into what he did, let me just break something else down if that's cool. So I'll teach people 2 different methods for getting clients. You have your organic stuff, commenting in groups, job boards, cold emails. Organic stuff costs you no money, but costs you time to do. Then we have our paid marketing approach that could be doing a Facebook ad and sending people to a website where they give you their contact information. That's paying for your advertising. There's what that does is allows you to free up your time. But it costs money because now instead of you chasing the client down with cold emails or doing all this stuff in Facebook groups, they're coming to you, but you have to have a little bit of a bankroll to be able to fund that stuff. And usually what I say is you want to have like 3 on the very conservative end or on the loose end, maybe $3,000 to $5,000 in money that you can have just to test some paid advertising. But before we get into paid ads, most people start with organic. And that's where Ryan started because he didn't have the money to do the paid ads. So we said, let's start with the organic stuff, take some of your own personal time to build this income, but then we can flip that money, put it into paid ads. So you no longer have to do all this organic stuff unless you want to. and you can have a funnel that gets you leads on demand. So that's usually how we like coach our copywriters and anyone who comes into our program. Start with organic, then transition to paid. Okay, so what Ryan did is he used one of our organic strategies. We have at least 5. I think we have a few more that I'm just forgetting, but I'll give you the first one that he did. And what he did is he would go onto the Facebook ads library. So if you go on Google and you just type in Facebook ads library, you click on like the first link that pops up, and you make sure you're looking for ads on Facebook that are in the United States, and you can type in a certain keyword. So let's say you like martial arts. I did martial arts. So let's say you like martial arts, right? And that's like a hobby that you have. Well, what Ryan did is he went in there into the Facebook ads library and typed in martial arts, because there's a little search bar there where you can type in a keyword and it'll pop up. It'll show you all of the ads on Facebook that are being run in that specific space. So there's thousands of ads, right? So he just typed in, I don't know what he typed in, but I'm going to say martial arts, whatever the hobby was. He typed in the thing, and it showed a bunch of people who were running ads in that space. And what we do is we click on the Facebook fan page, because now we know they're spending money on advertising. That's a great quality for a person who's going to hire a copywriter. They're already paying for ads. So it's like, we know they're in the game. They're not just like, I may need copy for something. You know, they're spending money on advertising. So there's a good chance they're going to need a copywriter, or at least they're open to it. They understand there's something there. So anyway, so what Ryan did, and so one of the things we teach people is he would just click on one of those ads. You can go through all of them. He clicked on one of the ads that popped up, went to the fan page, and just sent a simple message basically saying, hey, I want to write your copy for free. And I think he said, hey, I want to write your copy for free. And if it doesn't work, I'll refer you like 3 people from my network to go buy your stuff, or at least share your stuff with 3 of my people. Right. It basically got them to respond to him. And what he did is he wrote some copy for this person and then got put on a retainer for $10,000 a month. And wow. Just from doing this cold approach. Now, it's not like he only messaged one person. I'm sure he messaged 50 or 100 plus people. But that's what I'm talking about. When you're doing organic, it takes your personal time and effort to do these things, messaging all these people. But you only need one client to transform your life. And so that's what happened here. He did that approach, had this one client who closed on 10 grand a month, while he's also working on another $10,000 a month retainer, following the exact same process as he did to close this one deal. He's doing with another person who already knows his retainer price. He may have already closed them by now, I don't know, but he already closed one and had another. So that's like $20,000 in income right there from a cold approach strategy, where he's just messaging people who are running ads on Facebook, basically saying, I'll write your stuff for free. I'll write you an ad for free, test it. If it works, make sure, hire me to do all of your future stuff. We can customize a package that makes sense. If it doesn't work, you haven't paid me for anything. You don't owe me anything. And I'll also send you 3 or 4 referrals to your business. And, very cool way of getting some clients. And that's and so that's kind of one success story that's top of mind right now, because I just interviewed him like a week or 2 ago about it.
Yeah. Wow. That's solid. So just to be clear, what you offer in your training is you actually train them on how to do the sales, how to acquire clients, how to structure an offer, and how to deliver on that offer as well. Right. So you don't let any of those aspects out. Like if somebody comes to work with you, they can start from start to finish and they can deliver on what they're promising. Right.
Yes. So there's a couple of types of people that join our program. Obviously, we have the copywriters that join the program, and usually the copywriters have a base level skill by the time they join our program on how to write copy. They may not be A-list copywriters or anything, but they understand what a headline is. They've written an email or a Facebook ad before. They're not 100% green. And so what we do is we show them how to grow their copywriting business, because there's a lot of people out there that only show you how to write copy. And that's great, because that's a big piece of the puzzle. But if you can't sell and close people to have you write copy for them, it doesn't matter, right? And so for those people, we show them how to grow their business and close deals and find deals and all that stuff. We also have people who are completely green and have never written a headline before, have never done anything. And with those people, we always tell them that we are a mentorship that's focused on the business of freelancing. And so we partner them up with some of the other more established copywriters in our group, because we have like 160 or so people in there now. And we partner them up with a few people in there so they can, in the beginning, become what I call a copy closer. So you find deals in these job boards and all these groups and whatever, you close the deal on the copy or for writing a sales page or whatever it is. And then your partner, the other copywriter in the group who has more experience than you, will write the copy, and you guys figure out what you want to do for the split. Usually like a split 50-50 makes sense. But that way you can start getting in the mix of writing, of not necessarily writing copy, but closing copywriting deals, partnering with somebody, learning the skill of copywriting. But that way you kind of get in the mix.
Wow.
The other type of person is actually the offer owner, business owner. So Anthony Powell's in our mentorship, Bond Halbert's in our mentorship. A lot of like who's who of offer owners are in our mentorship. And it's for a couple of reasons. One, it's because they can hire from within the group. They know who's in there. They just hire from within the group. But the other reason is because I also do weekly copywriting critiques and trainings in our group. So whenever like, let's say you have a roofing business and you're about to do a Facebook ad, well, before you spend money on the Facebook ad, you send it to me. I critique it on our Friday trainings. So now when you launch it, you've got the best possible version of that copy that you're going to launch, and you have a higher chance of success. So a lot of the business owners in the group and the offer owners in the group, you really like it primarily because of those copy critiques that they can use. Yeah. So those are kind of the two types of folks that we have in there.
That sounds like solid, even just for somebody who is not even interested in being a copywriter. They can take advantage of you critiquing them and running the best ads they can. So that's really cool, man. Thanks for sharing that, because that's a very unique way you have your training structured, and I haven't heard of many people doing it that way. Now, we're kind of getting up against the end here, but I did, this is something I usually don't talk about, but I find it to be so important. And I did want to bring it up. You mentioned your girlfriend a couple of times, how she went through some tough times with you and you moved to Arizona together.
Yep.
I've found and I've heard that a lot of people that have the right woman in their life, who is solid in their life, can make your life a hell of a lot easier, as opposed to having some chaos and some crazy relationships and going from dating to dating and marriage to marriage. What advice do you have for people having just the right solid woman in your life, along with your business? What can you tell us about that?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I think I kind of just got lucky in a sense. Like, she met me when I was broke, and she also is entrepreneurial in her own right. And so we kind of gelled together. The thing that really made it work for me, at least, like if I'm just thinking just pure selfishly, is that she wasn't scared of like the bad times, and she was always thinking of like how we were going to get over it and what are we going to do to get over this. She didn't put all the pressure on me and say, go figure this shit out, we're broke as fuck. She actually is the person who closed our first deal when we were slinging websites for $400 a pop, and we did it door to door. We went to a little town in Florida called Stark, Florida. There's like one prison there. That's like like whenever they electrocute somebody to death, the entire town, basically their lights go down. That's how small this town is. So anyways, we're in Stark, Florida, and we're going door to door. Again, we couldn't, this is obviously this is earlier on in the journey before I fully transitioned to copywriting. So I skip, I'm glad we're going here. So before I fully transitioned to copywriting, and I was still doing, I had the martial arts school. There was a very small window, maybe less than a year, 6 months, 7 months, where I was just trying to flip websites. I was selling them for 400, finding someone in India from like Odesk or Upwork, whatever it was called then, and finding them to do it for like $50 or $100, and I would keep the $400 spread, right? That was like, I was trying to make that happen. I was a terrible salesperson. I couldn't make it happen, but Tiffany did. So we went door to door, and in this little town. And when I say door to door, we went to like the 1 or 2 streets that had business, like local businesses, like a bar or, whatever, like local businesses. There's like a feed store for like animals and shit. Like, anyway, so we went there. I didn't have stamps. We didn't do anything, but we packaged up a letter. Oh man, I'm sure I can find it, but it was one of like my best sales pages, I think, because we could only fit it on one page because of like the cost of printing paper. And and the headline, because my girlfriend Tiffany's father is a preacher, and so I said something like, and this is also a very small town in Florida where a lot of the people went to the same churches and stuff like that. So anyways, the headline was like, preacher's daughter reveals how small business owners in Stark, Florida can 2x, 3x, or 4x their revenue over the next X amount of days or months or whatever it was, something along those lines. But it was such a strong headline, and people, again, I think it made a big impact because people there all went to church. Like they would shut down at like noon to go to church or something. So it was, so when you saw preacher's daughter reveals, they're like, oh my gosh, is this like my preacher's daughter? Like it was just a very interesting hook. Anyways, long story short, on the bottom of that, we went door to door and dropped them off in their mailboxes and in their doors and whatever. And we had like 6 people call us from that out of like maybe 100 or 200 of these little letters that we just dropped. We had like 6 or so people call. And that was like revolutionary for me because I didn't have to cold call people anymore. They came to us and called us and said, hey, we got your cool letter and wanted to know more about this like website thing. So Tiffany ended up going back to, we were on the phone with she was actually on the phone with one of the people who was a lawyer. He was like the biggest law office in Stark, Florida. I don't know what that means, but it's like the biggest one. It was like the only one, I guess. And we went down there on, we were in Jacksonville. Stark is like 45 minutes, an hour away or so. Anyways, we got down there. We had barely any gas. It was raining. I felt like a miserable human being because I couldn't close any deals. And my girlfriend was going in there and we were like crossing our fingers like, fuck, I hope she closes something. She came out with a check for like $400 or something, a check, a legit check, but for $400. And it just transformed me. I was like in tears. We drove all the way back. We filled up the car. We got like a McDonald's and shit. And we couldn't believe we made $400. And it was like, it was the smallest piece of money, but it was something that burned in my head because she was out there hustling with me and closing. And she was the one who actually closed our first real deal and got our real client. And from there, it inspired me and kind of made me feel like shit that I didn't do it, to be honest. And it made me get better. So that was something. So I don't know if that answers a question, but I think having someone in your life that's on the same page and isn't like taking away, but trying to add wood to the fire is going to help.
Yeah, man, that's an awesome story. No wonder you guys are solid like that. I mean, I have a couple of friends who are entrepreneurs and they work really hard and they have successful businesses. And then they also have like girlfriends or wives who just don't understand and they complain and they bitch and they pull them down constantly. And these guys are like, they really wish they were in a different situation and they're not. So part of the reason I bring this up is because I've gone through some crazy relationships and I've lost my focus multiple times. And every time I've lost my focus, my business has crashed. Yeah. And so it's so important if you are going to have a relationship, male or female, whatever you are, to have somebody like solid in your life like that, and as soon as you realize you're going to have chaos in your life, you got to cut that stuff out. Cause I know every time I had chaos in my life, I lost. The last time I had chaos in my life, I lost 50 grand in my business. And, it's a long story on that, but anyway, that's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Carlos. So anyway, guys, we need to end this podcast because we're getting up to the end where people tend to, kind of tune out a little bit. But it was so great to have you on the show, Carlos. You're one of my favorite people. I didn't even know what to expect with you, but you've been so open and so gracious with your time and with your what you shared with us. Everybody, one more time, you can check him out on Facebook, Carlos Redlich, Redlich. Again, his website is trythisbiz.com. I may actually try it too because I have some ads I'd like Carlos to check out in the group. And I'm going to put in the podcast notes beneath this a link to his website, a link to Carlos on Facebook. And please go ahead and share this with everybody because I know this is something that people need going, especially into the new year. So again, Carlos, one more time, I'd like to thank you for joining us on the Lead King podcast and have a great new year.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Have a good one.